gentlemen, you are welcome to another online tutorial program organized by Lankotheory Educational Services Limited. The number is displayed on board for further inquiries, and the email and the website is equally displayed on the screen. In today's class, we'll be looking at the organs of government. Like we said in our last class, that in our further classes we will discuss what is meant by the organs of government. The organs of government is the machinery that carries out the wills, the policies that's implemented by the government of the states. These organs of government basically are divided into three. The first is the legislature. The second is the executive, while the third one is the judiciary. The legislative arm is saddled with the responsibility of lawmaking, while the executive is saddled with the responsibility of law implementation. And the third one, the judiciary, is saddled with the responsibility of law interpretation. These organs of government work together, and one cannot exist without the other. The reason is because if there is no law made by the legislature, there will be no law to be implemented by the executive. And if there is nothing implemented by the executive, definitely there is nothing that the judiciary can interpret. We now see how the three organs of government are interwoven and how they work hand in hand. Now the legislative arm of government. The legislative arm of government is the first arm of government that is saddled with the responsibility of making a law in the society for the well-being of the citizens of the state. Imagine a state without law. Such a state will turn into the state of anarchy, and that is what Thomas Hobbes describes as a lawless society. In a lawless society, the lives of the citizens in that society will be useless. Basically, the lives of the citizen will be brutish, it will be nasty, it will be solitary, it will be ugly, it will be poor, and it will be short, because there is no law in that society. And anything you feel doing at that particular time, you can do it, because there is no law in that society. And that is why we have the legislature, who makes law for the well-being of the citizens of the state. The legislative arm of government is divided into two. We have the unicameral legislature. Generally, we have the unicameral legislature and we have the bicameral legislature. This one shows that in a state that operates unicameral legislature, only one organ, only one arm exists that makes law for the state. One face making law for the state. But here we have two faces. We have two faces that makes law for the citizens of the state. A typical example of the one that is one face is Parliament. Parliament in England is only one. Why the example of the one that is two is National Assembly. In Nigeria, we have the National Assembly, which comprises of two faces that makes law for the well-being of the citizens of the state. The National Assembly is further divided into Senate and the House of Rep. There is nothing like House of Senate. I used to hear some students say House of Senate or the Senate is nothing. There is no D. Neither is there House of Senate. What the first and the upper house is Senate, and the second one is the House of Representatives. House of Representatives is the lower house, while the Senate is the upper house. The second one is the executive. The executive is charged with the responsibility of lawmaking. Law implementation is charged. The executive is charged with the responsibility of law implementation. That is, after the law has been made by the legislature, it is now implemented by the executive. What do we mean by implementation, setting it into force, ensuring that people comply with the law. For example, the legislature enacted penal code. Penal code is a law, is a penal law, and it prescribes it prescribes punishment for certain offences. That is where the work of the legislature ends. How will people that the penal code says should not steal, that is theft, will not commit this offence? The only way is by ensuring the law is well implemented, by using the police. And if anyone breaks this law by committing the offence of theft, then the police effects an arrest. That is implementation of the law, ensuring compliance. If someone fails to comply, then they pick him up, take him to court for prosecution. If he is prosecuted and is found guilty by the court of law, then such a person will be punished. At this point, let me draw your attention to the fact that this online tutorial class is sponsored by Lankotheory Educational Services Limited. The number is displayed on the board for further inquiries, and the email and the website is equally displayed on the screen. In Lankotheory Educational Services Limited, we educate with vision. And in furtherance of that, we equally offer online tutorial classes as well as Post UTME and A'Level courses. Our A-level courses include IGMB and GPEP and other A-level classes. Now, briefly, we examine the functions of these organs of government. Like I've said earlier, the first function of the legislature is lawmaking. Aside from making law, they perform other functions, and these functions equally include ratification of treaty. They equally approve budget. Last one is approval of executive nominees. The first one has been explained earlier, which is lawmaking and the essence of law in the society. The second one is ratification of treaty. Treaty is an international agreement between two countries or more. If this is reached by the head of the two states or head of so many states that is meeting together, if they come home and such treaty is not ratified by the National Assembly or the legislative arm in that state, then that treaty cannot have the force of law in that state. The next one is approval of budget. After the budget has been initiated into the National Assembly by the executive, then it is the duty of the National Assembly to look into the budget and approve it, subject to the final assent of the head of the executive, that is the president. The last one is approval of executive nominees. These are people who are going to occupy several political positions, such as ministers, among others. Before they can be appointed by the head of the executive, that is the president, then they must have been screened and approved by the legislature. The second one is the executive. Aside from the fact that the executive implements the law, they equally perform other functions. And this include the first one, as we have said, is law implementation. The second one is appointment of cabinet members. Those are the ministers. They equally initiate bills on the floor of the National Assembly so that they can deliberate upon it and see whether it can be approved and sent back to the executive for final assent. Appointment of cabinet members. These are people that will form the cabinet of the executive, and basically they are most times appointed by the president. And if they are appointed, they are subject to the approval of the National Assembly or the executive or the legislative arm in that state before they can be finally called the ministers or be given a particular portfolio in the cabinet of the executive. And lastly, they initiate bills. Bills are the first stage of a law. It is sent into the National Assembly before it passes through the several stages, and finally it can become a law subject to the assent of the president or the head of the executive in that state. Lastly, we have the judiciary. The judiciary, aside from the fact that they interpret the law, they equally perform other functions, and their other functions include punishment of offenders, and they equally settle disputes among disputing members in the society. We have explained the first function, while the second function is punishment of offenders. If an offender has been prosecuted by the police or by the appointed prosecutorial agency in that state before the court, and the court finds that the person is guilty, then the person will be sentenced accordingly by the court of law. And if the person is not guilty and is discharged, then the person will be set free to go on by the court. Aside from the punishment given by the court, any other punishment that is given by any person in the society, like lynching and any other punishment in the society, is called jungle justice. This is also punishable by the law. The last one is settlement of dispute. If there is a chaos, a dispute, a disagreement between two or more people in the society, i.e. on land or on any other transaction, then they are free to approach the court, present their cases, and seek redress. I also draw your attention to the fact that this online tutorial class is brought to you by Lankotheory Educational Services Limited. The number is displayed on the board for further inquiries, and we equally have